Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am so glad that you're joining us today again for our weekly live video on our real estate show. I have my co-host Delaney Bravo here with Fiber Mortgage, and my name is Angela Olmos. If we haven't yet properly met, my name is Angela Olmos. I'm a full-time realtor in the Northeast Florida area, and I'm with Momentum Realty. Sometimes I forget to mention that, but I thought I'd introduce ourselves first. And in this video today, we're going to be talking about some pretty interesting topics. These are things that come up in our day-to-day conversations as we're talking with clients and, people that are wanting to get a mortgage. They always are wondering what would be best to rent right now with what's going on with the real estate market or still own. So we have some insights, some thoughts that we want to share with you guys as far as that goes, as far as to also, is there still a good time to buy? And then we're going to wrap it up with some fun things happening in Jacksonville this weekend.
Perfect. I'm excited for this one because I know it's going to be like super valuable information. And this is one of the biggest things that we hear is should I buy or should I rent? Is it really worth buying because of the interest rates and the prices? So we're going to break some of that down and kind of show you guys which one might be the best option.
Yeah, and this is a great scenario. So we're going to go ahead and give you guys like a real live scenario. This is what people are seeing, and Delaney brought in some slides to share with us. So go ahead, Delaney.
Absolutely. So basically, I did a comparison if you were to rent versus buy and what that actually looks like. So this is a townhome in St. Johns County, and it is renting right now for $2,550 a month. So that's what we would be looking at for this size townhome. It's 1,800 square feet, 3 beds, 2.5 baths. So just to give an idea of what we would kind of be looking at. And it is, I have heard from every single buyer that is renting that they're like, I would say 90% that their rent is increasing. So Jacksonville in Northeast Florida is actually one of the higher cities in the US as far as rent increases within the last 12 to 24 months. So
wow. And Delaney, just real quickly, it seems like everywhere where I drive, at least in the south side of Jacksonville, there's like new apartment complexes popping up everywhere. And, it's kind of like a signal that people are still relocating to Northeast Florida. There's still a housing demand. And, enough of it where there are, multinational corporations coming in and building whole apartment complexes. Yes. With hundreds and thousands of units going on. So this is just one of the thousands of cases. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yes. And even St. John's too, like just driving my daughter to daycare, there is like 4 or 5. And so this is kind of showing that if you were to relocate here, is it really worth it to buy or rent? So this is just an example at $2,550, which seems high, but it's actually a lot of what I'm seeing people pay. So if you go to the next one, I can kind of break this down.
Yep. And this is this slide right there.
Oh, and so this buyer of this home, so we'll call that person the landlord. They bought this home in 2021 for $294,000. So that is, they got it at a great price. The market was a little bit different then, but let's play and say what was their mortgage. And I'm going to assume that they bought this as an investment property. If they bought this as a primary home or secondary home and then decided to rent it out, these numbers would be even more crazy. But we're going to go with they bought it as an investment property and got a mortgage on it. If they put 20% down when they got that mortgage, then their monthly payment would be about $1,694, so $1,700, and that's with an investment interest rate, taxes, insurance, everything. So
this is what the landlord would pay.
Correct. Yes. So on a 30-year mortgage, their payment would be about $1,700, but they're charging $2,550 a month in rent.
This is a great deal for the landlord.
Absolutely. And one thing I tell people is when you are renting, now some landlords own their homes without any mortgage at all. So they are getting literally 100% interest on their investment. However, if you were to do this, you are, as a renter, basically paying a mortgage. It just isn't your mortgage. You're paying the landlord's mortgage and then some. $800+ more to rent that townhome. And that is covering the entire mortgage for your landlord and $800 a month. So that is insane.
So they're actually, when they're renting, they're actually paying, like you just said, the landlord's mortgage and then leaving money in their pocket to the tune of $800 a month, more than $9,000 a year.
Correct. And that is, see, you're already where I'm heading, because I actually kind of broke down those numbers. But yes, it is. And so when people say, I'm not going to buy, I'm going to rent because of the interest rates, if we took, let's just play with it and say it was 1,700, but you're making that landlord $800 a month. So that interest rate, if you look at it that way, is sky high, like compared to where the rates are. So you are paying essentially a mortgage. It's just not yours. And you are paying interest that is double or triple what the interest rate is to buy right now.
Wow, that's incredible. And, I don't think a lot of people realize that or even look this lens in front of them. We are all going to need a place to live. We all do. That's just, the circumstance in life. So which approach are you going to take? Whether you want to rent and pay somebody else's mortgage and essentially make them rich over time, or do you want to get yourself in a position where that could be you, where you could be investing, where you could actually be someday even the landlord? It just works really well. This is a dynamic that it just depends on which side of the table you sit on. And if this is something that you're interested in doing for yourself, we have all the tools and the resources to help you get there.
Absolutely. Do you own any rental properties, or have you?
I just sold mine last year, and I sold it at the height of the market, thank God, without really knowing it. This was actually back in April of last year. And this was before the rates started going up. And I did notice the market, back then was extremely competitive. It sold very, very fast for over what we were asking for. And when I asked them what they would do if it didn't appraise for what they were wanting to buy it for, they offered to pay the appraisal gap. That's just how competitive that market was. And this was just about a year ago. Not even. I think we closed back in beginning of May. So we sold in April and we closed in May. But yeah, this is incredible how the market dynamics has a lot to do with the outcome of these transactions.
And that's where I'm looking at this and I'm being like, I need to buy some investment properties,
Totally. This is exactly how we build, wealth over time with real estate. There's an old saying about buying real estate and waiting, not waiting to buy real estate. It's proven over time. And the numbers don't lie. I love how you broke all this down to be able to really show people, the numbers, because they don't lie.
Absolutely. So this is showing the $2,550 a rent. Now there was advertised on this rental that it was a $1,500 deposit. I'm not working that in at all. The reason why I mentioned, as far as the numbers that I'm going to go over, but the reason why I mention this is because there are down payment assistance programs where you potentially need $0 at closing. I have a few in process right now. It is possible. And the reason why I mentioned the 1,500 is because typically when you go under contract, and you can mention more on this, Angela, but you usually put down what's called a binder deposit or an earnest money deposit. And that's kind of your money to say, hey, we want to go under contract. That's credited at closing. So that $1,000 will come off whatever you need. But if you're paying $1,500 deposit, you could potentially pay $1,000 to get under contract on a home and buy it. And then if you needed to pay for the appraisal or the home inspection, those are about $500 each. So you could be out the door with your deposit on this rental with getting a down payment assistance loan on this exact property. So it's just showing you that you're really not saving any money by renting, is short-term or long-term.
Yeah, it's incredible. And, and if rent is $2,500 and you would need a deposit, most likely you would probably need some money for inspections and your appraisal. So yeah, it's always a good idea to have something to put into the buying process. But Delaney makes it really easy. She's got so many different programs that, you could possibly qualify for. But the best way to really do that is to connect with her, because there's so many moving parts to all of these programs that you would really want to be able to guide you in the right direction.
Absolutely. And if you go to the next one, so it's $856 per month that you are making this landlord. And if we kind of just look at the numbers, if you are paying $2,550 and 63, I mean, you're paying like 5% interest on this easily. But I know. So when people say, oh, the rates are so high, I completely get it. Some people just where they're at credit wise, it might not make sense for them to buy. I'm not saying this, and Angela can probably second this, that this is going to work for every single person. But this is just showing you guys an overview of really breaking down buying versus renting. So over time, let's look at that $856. We're not talking about utilities. We're not talking, this is just what you'd be making the landlord. If you were in there for 1 year, you have made that landlord $10,272. Now, obviously the landlord's going to have some costs if something breaks, if they have property management, things like that. But this is just out of your pocket.
Taxes on the property as well. Yeah. And insurance most likely.
Exactly. So this is kind of showing, but even if that all is 10,000 a year, which I mean, I typically think it would be under that, even if they pay for all of that, they are owning this home and literally not having to pay anything. You're paying it all. Now, let's say you've been there for 2 years. You can see how this increases. What I can tell you is, let's take down payment assistance off the table. If you wanted to do an FHA loan on this exact property, that is a 3.5% down payment. We also have 3% options. So let's say you wanted to buy this home. This home, let's just say average market rate or market price right now would be, I mean, and you second me on this, is a townhome in Beacon Lake, would be probably like $450-ish.
I have one that I'm selling in Wills Creek. And that's in the low threes. So I would probably say with Beacon Lake, maybe about 320 or so, maybe 320.
Okay. Yes. And I actually, when I was looking this up last night, there's 2 for sale, not for rent. And those are both 425 and like 440. I don't know on that if that's a realistic number, but let's just say that if you were to buy it at 430,000, and you paid a 3.5% down payment, that's $15,000. And that's not down payment assistance. So you could get the seller to cover everything, bring $15,000 to closing and have this home. And you would, in 1 year, almost be making that in extra money. 2 years, 20, 3 years, 30, 5 years, 51, 10 years, 102,000. So this is just one example of how building wealth over time with real estate. But on the other side, you're a renter and this is what you're making the landlord over time. So just to show, I mean, what do you think, Angela?
I think the same way. I think that, the quicker that people start investing in real estate, the better off they're going to be. I mean, I just come from a position of knowing that we all need a home to live in, right? I mean, that's just like our basic necessity. So if you are going to have a house payment, wouldn't you rather have a house payment on something that you could invest in that's going to compound on value over time, something that could actually be passed on to your children, or, it could leave a legacy for your family if this is managed correctly. I think a lot of people don't realize this has been around for hundreds of years in the United States and served as a tool to build wealth for many people. And it's just a matter of, just positioning yourself again on the right side of the table, whether you want to be the renter that's making the landlord rich, or do you want to be the owner? You want to start off with your own primary home. And then from there, if you want to grow into, investing even more, then it works really well, as the numbers show.
Well, and just a little bit really, really quick, like personal disclosure. I like how you mentioned the idea of building wealth over time. And the reason I mentioned that is because I bought a home in 2015 and market was different, but we paid about $150,000 for it. It was the perfect starter home for our family. Fast forward to 2020. Again, the market was a little different there. I mean, we were able to sell that home for $240,000.
Nice.
That is a $90,000 increase that we were able to, when we sold it, that was the difference in value. And if you think about it, over those 5 years, things actually depreciate in value when it comes to the things in the home. So we were able to sell it for $90,000 more, but now the roof is 5 years older, the appliances, the AC, I mean, all of that. So that's just an example of buying a home. And we could have turned it to a rental as well and been in this position. So that is the true meaning of building wealth.
And I love that. I think this is something that could help a lot of people if they really want to do it. There are other resources available, and we're here to guide you through the process. Delaney is a specialist at the financing part of it. She will help you get pre-qualified, figure out which is the best program for you to finance under. And then once we have that all sorted out, because it truly is the first step, you have to figure out how you're going to be paying for this if it's truly a serious purchase that you're wanting to make. If you're just window shopping, you could do that, anytime. But if you're serious about making this a reality, you start off with the pre-qualifying. You want to make sure that you're solid with that. So that way, when it comes time to placing an offer, you're not scrambling then trying to figure out, okay, do I qualify? Do I not? You already know, and then you can position yourself in front of the seller in a much more powerful way than not having done your homework before.
Absolutely. And then were you going to kind of chat about for kind of how it's a little bit different now and how it comes to like negotiating and things and how that's different? Because that is another plus of buying right now. You know what I mean?
Totally. So one of the things that I see come up, fairly frequent is the conversation of whether I should wait to buy because the rates have gone up. Okay. And I have two things to say with that. When you compare the rates going up, yes, they have gone up, but what are you comparing it to? The absolute historical low that we've had in like something like 50 years, when they came down to 2%. Yeah, they're 2% is lower than 6%, but 2% was not normal. That's not something realistically to be compared to because it hasn't been seen in such a long time. So the 6% interest rate wouldn't be so bad if you're comparing it to the 12% rates that maybe some of our parents paid for back in the 80s, right? So you want to kind of have some perspective on that. And then also compare it to what Delaney was saying. So if you don't want to pay a 6% interest rate on your own mortgage, you might not be realizing you're paying what more, 100% interest rate when you're paying a mortgage payment? Is that right, Delaney?
Absolutely. And what's really funny is I was talking to my grandma, so sweet. And she was asking me like, how's the market? How's your job? Normal grandma stuff. Yeah. And I was telling her and she goes, oh, sweetheart, we paid 26% on our first home.
Oh
and
my God.
I was literally in the car with her and I was like, what?
26%. Did she tell you what year that was?
Oh gosh. I didn't ask her, but I mean, I'm assuming it was probably like the late 50s, early 60s. So, I mean, and maybe I'll bring that next week. I have a, like a little picture or whatever that has historical rates.
Awesome. Yeah, because I think that people need some perspective to really know what they should be comparing it to. If you're just looking at the last few years, that was not a normal market. It really wasn't. We had some things that we had not seen in a very long time, such as a pandemic, and what that did to relocate so many families within not just the state, but the whole United States. There was just so many things affecting that. That you really don't want, you want to have some perspective on what you want to compare it to. And then the second thing that I would say is if you are thinking of waiting and for some crazy reason, which it's highly doubtable, but if the rates did come down to 2 or 3% again, right? If that's what you're waiting for, okay? One of the things that you want to prepare yourself for is the bidding wars that come along with those markets with such low interest rates. And it wasn't very far in history that we've had this. Just a year ago, I had that with my investment property. Like I was telling you, we put it on the market, just like I do with any of my listings. It did appeal. It was staged. It was clean. I do everything just to make sure that it only takes one first impression for them to make a decision. So with the right preparation, we had 17 offers, okay, on this property, 17 of them. Once I chose the top 3, I asked, it was obviously a multiple offer situation. They got into a bidding war. We did ask for highest and best, and one of the highest and best came in at a really high number, which called our attention, of course. And when I inquired as to how would you address the situation if it didn't appraise for what you're offering to pay for it, they offered to pay the appraisal gap in cash.
That was and that was like a normal thing. Like I can tell you, same with mine. When I listed it in 2020, we had over 24 showings in a 48-hour period. And by 3 days in, we had 15 offers. So, I mean, same thing as you. And those are 2 different years, you know.
Totally.
But what I'll say is, I mean, I had so many first-time buyers when those rates were low, and it was amazing. The rates were low, you know, they could have a little bit lower payment. However, it was just as, if not more, like difficult to secure a home, because if you didn't walk in and say, I have 20% down, I can close in 2 weeks, I can put down, I'll pay the difference if the house doesn't appraise for what I want to pay. It was so difficult. I had so many buyers putting offers in every single weekend, and they just couldn't get an offer accepted. And tell me, did you have that with some of your buyers?
No, it was actually a realtor that brought the buyer in. So I was
like in general, like in that time, was it a little bit more difficult?
Delaney, it was such a competitive market. It seemed like every house had an offer or had been sold in just a few hours. So not only do you have to, you know, prepare a good solid offer, but you had to do it really fast and hope that the listing agent saw it as fast as possible so that they would make the decision point for our buyers. So all of this to say, guys, if you really want to wait for those 2% rates, then you better be prepared to pay higher than what the seller's asking price would be, because that's exactly the dynamic that happens in those lower interest rate markets. And it wasn't too long ago that we were seeing that. So is it really worth it to wait for the sake of getting a lower payment, but then now you're going to have to spend more on the house?
Well,
you know?
Oh, sorry. I didn't mean to, I kind of froze there for a second. But the last thing I'll mention too, and you can touch on this, is, you know, many people think, and this is a misconception, that you just need your down payment for closing. Like that is possible if the seller is going to pay your closing costs, which are 2 to 3% of the price of the home. So if you were buying a $500,000 home, if you wanted the seller to cover everything, then that would be a credit from them for about 10 to 15 grand. 2 years ago, it was not, like, it was extremely rare for the seller to cover anything because they didn't have to. They had 17 offers.
Why would I have to pay you $12,000 for you to close on this when everybody else is paying their own closing costs and then offering to pay more for the house and even appraisal gaps? It's just part of the dynamic in that market.
In the negotiation now, yes, rates are higher, but I have about 4 contracts right now where the seller is paying over half or all the way up to all of the buyer's closing costs.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yes. So yes, the rates were a little bit lower, but if you don't have the 15 grand and the down payment and can walk in and do it, it would be hard to get a home. Now you can negotiate on the price, on your closing date, on a contingency. I mean, this is more your side, but that's just what I'm seeing over on my side, is there's more negotiating power, which is actually more powerful for a buyer, first-time buyer specifically, than the lower interest rate, if that made sense.
Totally. There's a metric that I keep tabs on, and that is a ratio that exists between the listing price and the sales price. So we really monitor, like, you know, how much were they asking for and how much did they really get? When we had the lower interest rates, we had a list price to sale ratio of 112%, which means that at the height of the market, it wasn't crazy for a seller to expect to get as much as 12% more or even more on their home, right? Now that same metric is more like 96%, which is a little bit more of a balanced market. You know, so what that means is in general, and this could vary depending on the price point too, but in general, nowadays, sellers are getting 96% of what they're asking for. You know, because now the rates are a little bit higher. Not everyone can qualify. So it's becoming more of a balanced market. We're getting more inventory now too. So there are more choices for buyers to choose from, rather than that big buyer frenzy that we had just a couple of years ago.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I know we went in like 17 different tangents here, but I hope it all kind of was cohesive to show you guys the real benefit, or the lack of benefit, I can't think of the word, or the downfall of buying versus renting. So don't let a down payment scare you. Don't let the rates scare you. You probably have more buying power in this market. So hopefully we kind of explained that correctly for you guys. But I mean, this is valuable information, and I am going to repost this on my Facebook and say, like, this is probably the most important episode that we will do, as far as valuable information in a long time, because this is information buyers and even realtors and anybody really needs to hear in the market right now.
Absolutely. I think that there's a lot of misconceptions and a lot of fear still in the market. And, you could do nothing and continue to pay your landlord's mortgage, or you could get the information, connect with us, get pre-qualified. Let me help you through the process of buying your next home. And if you have a home already that you need to sell in order to qualify for your next mortgage, that's another thing that we have the ability to help you through, bridging that gap. We have the tools, the resources, the information to help you through it. So my contact info is on the bottom of the screen. You guys are welcome to text. Just give me a call, and we'll love to help you with that. And I'm also going to have Delaney's pop up next.
Oh, look at that. Hello. I feel like we're on a little news show too. I love it. So are we ready to get into some stuff happening this weekend, or did you have anything else?
Yeah, that's the last part of our show. What's happening in Jacksonville. So we always like to wrap it up with some fun things that you guys can look forward to on the weekend. So what's going on? What fun things can we get into, Delaney?
Okay, so there was so much happening. I picked 3 like I usually do, but I kind of they're a little biased because I pick things. I try to do like something for family, something maybe for a date night. So we'll see. But the first thing is the Jacksonville Women's Expo. I had to give some girl power.
Nice.
That being said, it is National Women's History Month this month. And just a couple days ago, it was National Women's Day. So
International Women's Day. It's like
an international
holiday.
Absolutely. Not just everybody all over the world. So
everybody.
This is, I actually kind of want to do this. And it's a women's expo. It's going to have 400 booths of vendors. It'll have wine tastings, fashion shows, beauty and wellness, hundreds of pop-up booths. I really, really want to go to this.
This sounds amazing. Yeah, that sounds great.
So tomorrow, the 11th, 10 to 5, it's at Prime Osborne Convention Center. We just talked about the home and patio show being there last week. So that's going to be really fun. Get with your girlfriends, kind of go. I think it would be a fun time. Next, we have, this was just kind of a fun one, but any Harry Potter fans out there, okay?
Oh, my son, my 7-year-old. What? Is
yes.
Harry Potter something going on in Jax?
Yes, and it doesn't show the time, so we'd have to dig a little bit more on that, but platform 9 3/4, it's a wizarding market. So it's going to be a whole Harry Potter themed market. It's going to have like performances, shops, vendors, food trucks.
Where is that at, Delaney? Are you able to put that on the screen? I think I'm still seeing the Women's Expo.
Oh my gosh. Wow, Delaney, get it together. We're just talking about the expo today, guys.
This is to a morning show.
There you go. Okay, here we go. Bam. So,
bam.
Yes, I feel like Emerald.
There we are.
So this says it's at the River City Railway venue. So that's going to be downtown Jacksonville. But super fun, super cool. I thought that was a really fun one.
And are they going to have like props that are like Harry Potter related?
Yes, they're going to have wand classes, cosplay where people are going to actually dress up as the characters. They're going to have specialty shops, vendors, food trucks, like the whole shebang. So if you have even yourself, I'm a Harry Potter fan. If you have a kid that loves it, like this would be such a fun experience for them.
Gabriel would have a ball. I have family coming from out of town, but this might be something we could bring them to. And is it on a railroad? Like, are they actually doing on the railroad tracks?
No, I don't think so. There's a railway venue like that is near the railroad tracks downtown, and I think it's going to be inside the venue, and kind of have all the little pop-up shops and things like that. So that would be really, really fun.
What I was thinking of was photos. Like photos on the railroad tracks with a Harry Potter theme.
Oh my God, because they have the train too, Harry Potter.
Those will make some killer photos.
Oh my gosh, yes. So checking that one out. The last thing that I have here to it is obviously we have TPC, that's coming up. But the last thing I wanted to chat about was they have this 904 pop-up. I don't know why it wasn't still up, but here we go. It's the there's all these festivals. I love living in Northeast Florida because there's never a shortage of things to do. This is a 904 pop-up. It's Jacksonville's largest curated pop-up event, and that has over 200 vendors, 15 food trucks. It's pet friendly, it's free. And so that is, it's 11 to 7. And this is going to be downtown as well. So I can leave the link in the comments for the direct information. But I just feel like we're going to go shopping this week.
Yeah. This sounds like a great event to maybe even have gotten a tent to promote our services. Maybe next year.
I know. Yes.
Imagine how many we can help.
Absolutely. So, we got Women's Expo, we got Harry Potter Expo, we got 904 Pop-Up Expo. So no shortage of amazing things to do this weekend.
Oh, so good. So good. Well, it's shaping up to be a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. I really appreciate it. We come to bring you guys value every single Friday morning at 10 a.m. If there is a certain topic that you want us to discuss, if you like to be on our show, here's another thing. We're working on inviting our guests. We've had a couple of guests here already, and it's something that's really simple. I would just simply email you a link, and then you can just join us on the live stream. But yeah, if you are connected with, maybe insurance or title, what else, Delaney? Anyone?
Even like if you have a small business that is, anything that, we would love anybody to come on and talk about, their stuff. But even too, if you do something gift wise, if you, do closing gifts, or maybe you bake things that people like that you could give to clients for closing too. So any type of like artisans, I think that would be a fun one too.
Yeah. And then we could even do it where it doesn't necessarily have to be about real estate. We can just highlight a business in our community. So the idea behind this is obviously we'll bring you some valuable content about our field, but we also want to blend this in with the community. So if there's something that we can help you highlight, a certain product or service that you offer that could complement this live stream, we would love to do that for you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. All right, guys. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great. And we remember to be kind to one another. And we will see you on the next video. Take care.
Bye.